Hey guys, how's it going? Ajak Collection here, back with another figure review. Today we're looking at the Avengers Endgame Series 3 Thor Build-A-Figure line Valkyrie. So as you can see on the back of the box, we get a cool image of Valkyrie and an image of the Build-A-Figure figure and all the other figures in the line. We've got a quick read-up of Valkyrie as well if you want to look at it. We've got a picture of Valkyrie on both sides of the box as well. On the front, we've got the Marvel Legends logo on the top and the Avengers Endgame logo at the bottom with Valkyrie's name printed on the front. And we've also got a window opening where we can see the figure, the accessories, and also the Build-A-Figure parts. So let's get the figure out and look at the accessories. Alright, so in terms of accessories, this is all Valkyrie comes with. She comes with obviously her sword and her sheath. So let's take a quick look at the sword first. If it focuses, give it a minute. There we go. So the sword is pretty bland. It's not got any kind of details on it. There's a little bit of sculpture here and there, sculpt work here and there, but there's nothing too extravagant. Sorry, let's try to get that to focus. Yep, there you go. So there's nothing too much on there. There's a little bit of sculpt going on here and there. It's a really flimsy kind of plastic, so it's not too strong. So I guess, yeah, I don't know. It just really feels cheap. Same with the sheath. It's like very flimsy, but it's got better sculpt work here. So that's, I don't know, that's probably, yeah, that's a little bit better than the sword. So it looks decent, but it's probably not the best thing about the figure. And it fits in pretty well. So that I think they've done really well. So that's good, but it's just really flimsy. And we also get the final piece for our Thor Build-A-Figure figure. This is Thor's left leg, and that's what it looks like. Let's get to focus. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Cool. So let's move on to the figure itself. Alright, so here we have Valkyrie out of the packaging, and she looks like a pretty incredible figure. I think the white on the figure looks really nice. So in first look, I definitely dig the figure. She's got, so let's take a closer look at her. She's got definite likeness to Tessa Thompson. There's a bit of a gash on the side of my figure here, but that probably shouldn't happen to all figures. Oh, it's got it on both sides. But yeah, it's a pretty good likeness to Tessa Thompson. I think the face printing is done really well. The hair looks pretty spot on in terms of the braiding. It looks pretty good. I'm not sure if the braiding actually happened in the movie, and I can't really, yeah, I don't remember too much of Endgame's Valkyrie scenes, but I think from what I see, I'm really digging it still. The hair is sculpted pretty well. The cape is a separate piece, so it just plugs into the back here, and it comes off pretty easy. I really dig this cape as well because it's got like sculpture of its own, and the armor pieces that sit on top of her shoulder look pretty good as well. So a closer look at the figure. Yeah, the face, like I said, is pretty good. There's a lot of texturing on the neck as well, and on the back of the neck. The gold paints are done really well, really clean lines. There's a lot of texturing going on everywhere, and it really looks good. The armor on the chest piece looks pretty accurate to what it is in the movie. The color maybe should be a little bit more gray, or maybe off-white, but yeah, the white looks really good on the figure. There's a lot of texture work, sculpt work, and everything else going on. The armor should look a little bit different in terms of the chest piece because this should be more prominent, the color here. But yeah, I guess with the articulation there, it's probably, we can probably overlook it. And the skirt piece here should be a little bit longer in terms of what it should look like in the movie. But yeah, I think it's still a good looking figure. So these are pliable here, so you can kind of move that around if you need to. It'll probably hinder her splits, but oh well, it's a good looking figure, so I still kind of dig it. So alright, so let's move on to the articulation for the figure. Alright, so in terms of articulation for this figure, her head can go up that high, which is not that much. There's not much hindrance by the neck piece. Oh, sorry. I think it should go back a little bit further. Let's give it a little bit more pressure. Okay, so that's how far up she can look. She looks pretty scary when she does that. But yeah, you've got very good range of motion. She can, yeah, looking straight forward, she looks alright. She can look that far down, which also looks a little bit scary, but she can tuck her chin to her chest, which is pretty good. Not many figures can do that. She's got good side to side and a little bit of pivot, and as you, or as you might know, in the figure, like Valkyrie figure has a little bit, the Valkyrie character has a little bit of attitude. So yeah, she could probably, yeah, that pivot does really help. So in terms of the shoulder motion, yeah, that thing, that armor piece does hinder the articulation going up a little bit, but that's how far it can go up. You can swivel around all the way around. There's no bicep cut, but there's an elbow, single hinge elbow that can rotate, and there's a wrist swivel as well as an up and down motion for the wrist. Let's take her sword out of her hand. There you go. So it's the same for both hands. In terms of the torso articulation, she can go forward that much, which is pretty decent. She can go back a pretty decent amount. She can pivot side to side, and she can swivel. There is no waist swivel, so that's all right because you could get this to cover that. She can not split that much because of the hindrance of these pieces here, but she's got a boot cut, a thigh cut. She can kick up that far up without damaging any of the skirt piece kind of, yeah, thing. Double jointed knees work. Let's see how that work. Yeah, they work really well. You can get her to bend all the way. And there's no boot cut, none that I can see. Her legs can go up that far, which is pretty good. Go down that far, and she's got ankle pivot. So there's a pretty good figure in terms of articulation. There are some figures that are some articulation points that are a little bit hindered, but I think overall you can achieve many decent poses with this figure. So let's move on to comparing her with some other action figures. Alright, so in terms of size comparison, let's compare Valkyrie to Thor from Ragnarok. And Thor is a pretty mammoth figure, like I've said multiple times, but that's what Thor looks like next to Valkyrie. This is what Valkyrie looks like next to Loki. So that probably scales better. Thor is just a little bit too big. This is what Valkyrie looks like next to the Avengers Endgame Series 3 Heimdall, which is off the same line. So that's what Heimdall looks like. This is what Valkyrie looks like next to Hela. So Hela's pretty big, taller than Loki, but I think similar height as Thor. So Hela was a pretty tall character, so I think that suits well. Let's get a few other characters in here. And this is what Valkyrie looks like next to Hulk from Ragnarok. So yeah, that's a pretty good. I think Hulk should be a little bit taller, but that's fine. And there's one more figure we wanted to compare. This is what Valkyrie looks like next to the Thor that is kind of like a hodgepodge of Infinity War in terms of the body, and the Fat Thor Build-A-Figure head that came with, I think it was Iron Patriot. Yep, so yeah, that's what Valkyrie looks like next to all the other figures. So in terms of final verdict, this is a pretty good figure. I think we have one more Valkyrie figure, but that's without her suit of armor. So it's the other Valkyrie figure from Ragnarok. I think that's a pretty rare figure. I'm not sure if that's easily available, but if you do have a chance to get this Valkyrie figure, the likeness is pretty spot on. The colors are pretty vibrant, and everything in terms of sculpt, paint, and articulation on this figure is pretty good. I think the sword's the only thing that's a little bit of a miss because yeah, it looks like that. It's floppy, it's not that strong, not sturdy, so that's the only miss. But in terms of the figure, this is a pretty good looking figure. If you do have the chance to get her, do get her, and you also get to complete the Fat Thor Build-A-Figure, so I think this is definitely worth the buy.